Welcome back to day 3 of the Smart Enough Masterclass series, where I'm teaching you the art of becoming a good student. This day, as you guys can see, the vibe is a little bit different. I'm not standing up. I'm not in front of a board. This is probably going to be the most powerful and the most impactful, the most life-changing day of the 3-day masterclass series. And the reason is because I am going to be talking about the journey of becoming a good student in a way that you have likely not heard it before, especially if you are someone who watches a lot of other study YouTubers. And I know that I come off very much being against you watching YouTube videos. And I just want to say that I think that YouTube videos can be very helpful. YouTube videos around studying and around time management and around planning. The reason why I have a strong opinion about students not over consuming them is because when you're watching these YouTube videos, one of the things that can happen is that you can start to believe that having that knowledge and having that information is enough for you to do well in your classes and become a good student. And it's because YouTubers are trying to position themselves as an expert. And so when they're sharing what worked for them, they're sharing it from the perspective of, oh, I did this and this is how I got A's and B's. And if you do this, then you'll also get A's and B's. And what happens to a lot of students is that, give me 1 second, I'm gonna close my window again. Just wanted to make sure that we were recording still. Is everyone still able to hear me? I just put my fan up because I closed the window. I just want to make sure that the sound is okay. I'm going to keep going. Perfect. Okay. So when you watch YouTube videos, you can get into this misperception that knowing about Cornell method of note taking or the Pomodoro method or mind maps or retrieval practice is equivalent to you practicing using those skills. So you think that just because you know that you should be using Cornell method of notes, or you should be using mind maps, or you should be using a planner, or you should be using X, Y, and Z, and whatever it is that you've heard, flashcards, Pomodoro, rereading your textbook, highlighting, color coding, using Quizlet. Students confuse having that knowledge with practicing using that knowledge. And this is why I get so crazy when I talk about the overconsumption of YouTube videos, because we can get so inspired and so motivated by them that we think that they're actually doing something for us as a student. We think that watching the video and feeling inspired and motivated by it is doing something for us to become a good student. We equate knowing with doing, and it is not the same thing. It is not the same thing. The reason why I titled this 3-day masterclass series Smart Enough is because the only requirement for you to be a good student is for you to believe that it's possible for you. You're already capable, you're already smart enough, you're already worthy enough of the grades it is that you want, of the college experience it is that you want, of the ability to be able to balance working full-time with going to school full-time, with being a mom full-time. You already have it in you. That's why this series is called Smart Enough. The only requirement is for you to believe that you are. Because if you can learn how to walk and talk, the time management and the study skills is the easiest part of this. Okay? And I really want to emphasize that. I really want you to understand how crucial the belief part is. And I'm going to show you exactly why, because what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to walk you through the journey of becoming a good student. So when I say that, the journey of becoming a good student, what I mean is that I'm going to walk you through a timeline of what it looks like when you decide that you want to earn better grades. You make the decision that you want to change things around, that you want to stop procrastinating, that you want to start studying consistently, that you want to start using a planner, that you want to, get on top of your time management. I'm going to talk to you about what happens on a mental level for you, what happens in your mind when you make this decision. I'm going to talk about what happens in the actions that you take. And I'm also going to talk about what happens in your emotional body when you decide to embark on becoming a good student. And again, this is the side of YouTube that you're not seeing. You're not seeing the day-to-day, the grind. All you're seeing is the after. I color coded my notes and that helped so much. Got an A. I used Quizlet and it, oh my God, it like changed the entire semester for me. And I ended up with a B. Stop passive studying and you need to start actively studying. The moment that I started actively studying, everything changed for me. I became a good student again. And when they describe what they did in this way, what you don't get to hear is what that looked like, felt like for them on a day-to-day basis, because I promise you that that is not as simple as they make it seem. And the reason why it's so important for you to understand that this is an illusion is because your experience is going to feel very different than how they're describing it. And the only reason why it's going to look very different than how they're describing it is because they're not revealing what's going on behind the scenes. And so when you try to do everything that they're telling you to do, and you're meeting resistance, you're still finding yourself avoiding it and procrastinating, it's not working as fast as you thought it would, it's still taking you a lot of time and a lot of effort, you make it mean that there's something wrong with you. You make it mean that it's the routine that's a problem. You make it mean that you're just not as good as them or just not as smart as them. And that is why I go in hard on study YouTubers, because they don't share this side of it. And it gives this false perception that if you just use the Pomodoro method, all your problems will be solved as a student. If you just start doing retrieval practice, all of your problems will go away as a student. If you just wake up at 5 a.m. and have a morning routine, all of your problems will go away as a student. And that is not how it works. This is the journey of becoming a good student. It starts right before the semester begins. So typically you tell yourself this. This is going to be the semester where things are different. I'm not going to drop out of classes. I'm going to pass all of my classes. I'm going to keep up with my reading. I'm not going to procrastinate. I'm going to buy a planner. I'm going to use the planner. I'm going to get A's. I'm going to be the student that I know that I can be. That's how it starts. And you're really motivated by these goals that you've set for yourself. And so you start to think, okay, well, if I want to stop procrastinating, if I want to start using my planner, and if I want to be this good student and get these grades and stay on top of my reading, I need to figure out how to do that. So you go to YouTube and you start looking this up because you're trying to get yourself organized and prepared to be this good student, because things are going to be different this semester. We're not going to keep repeating past patterns. So you go to YouTube to look up videos, and you're seeing all of these students who are super successful on YouTube. You're hearing stories about people failing and then getting A's, and they're sharing with you how they color coded their notes, and they're sharing with you how they planned their day, and they're sharing with you their 12-hour-a-day study routine, and they're sharing with you all of the things that they did to go from being a terrible student to being a good student. And you're listening to all of these stories. You're taking all the notes. You're like, oh yeah, I'm going to try that planner. Or, oh yeah, I'm going to try that note-taking method. Or like, oh yeah, I'm going to try adding this morning routine in. Or yeah, I'm going to try adding this in that person's doing. And you're starting to get really excited. And you're starting to feel like, okay, maybe this semester is actually going to be different for me. And that is the first stage of becoming a good student. This is called uninformed optimism. All you see is shiny objects. All you see is possibility. All you see is this shortcut that's going to help you to go from F's to A's. All you see is this perfect plan that this YouTuber laid out for you in front of you. And you're like, yes, this is going to be the thing that finally helps me to get my act together. This is going to be the thing that turns it all around for me. Like, this is it. I've got it. We're ready. Let's go. First week of classes start. And you're starting to put into practice some of the things that these YouTubers have told you about. First week goes really well. You planned everything out. You put everything in your planner. You've kept up with your reading. You've kept up with whatever assignments are going on this first semester. Second week of the semester rolls around, same thing. You're like starting to feel like, okay, I've got this. And then we hit week 3 of the semester. Week 3 and week 4 of the semester is when things start to change for students. All of a sudden, they have assignments, big assignments due. All of a sudden, they have big exams around the corner. All of a sudden, the work is starting to get a little bit more difficult and coming a lot faster, and it's starting to pile up. And all of these things that you started to implement from these YouTube videos that you watched aren't working as well as they were working week 1 and week 2. And you stop following them and you stop using them, and things start to get really hard, and you're realizing how much effort it takes. And you're realizing how, oh, I still actually have to do the reading, and it's confusing, and the content is really hard, and these math problems are like super complicated, and this chemistry stuff, like, wow, I didn't think it was going to be this hard. This stage in the process of becoming a good student happens around week 3 and week 4 of the semester. This is what I call the oh shit moment. Things are starting to get real. Assignments are piling up or are coming. First exam is right around the corner for like all of your classes. First papers, all the things. And you're realizing how much it's going to require of you to get these grades it is that you want. You're realizing the effort. You're realizing how hard it is. You're realizing that it's not as simple as these YouTubers said it was going to be. This is where the doubt starts to very quietly, very subtly creep its way into your mind. Remember how before the semester started, you were like, everything is possible. I'm going to be the best student. Yeah, let's go. Well, now at this point in the semester, you're like, I don't know. You're starting to question whether or not you're going to be able to do this because things are starting to pick up, right? Then a month into the semester, you've had your first exam, you've handed in your first maybe assignments, and you're looking at your grade and it's not what you expected based off of all of the effort that you just put in for the past 4 weeks. And you're thinking to yourself, how did this happen? I bought the planner. I scheduled my time every week. I even downloaded Quizlet on my phone. I went to those supplemental instruction things that are offered this semester. I did the reading and I printed out the PowerPoints and I put in all this time and I put in all this effort. And I still got a 65 on this exam. Something doesn't quite add up here. Okay? So this is the journey to becoming a good student. The start of the semester, we're in informed optimism. This is where everything is possible. About 2 to 3 weeks, the oh shit moment happens in the semester. And then after the first exam, you hit what I call the pit of despair. The pit of despair is when you are freaking the hell out because you realized I just put in all of this time, all of this effort. I watched so many videos. I did all of the things that these people told me to do, and it's not working. It's not working. This moment right here, where you have the thought, it's not working, and you're in the freak out stage, this is the most crucial, important, pivotal, potential to be life-changing moment for you of the semester. This pit of despair moment. This point in the semester is what differentiates the students who drop out of the class or fail it, and the students who end it with an A or a B. The point in the semester that this happens is right after the first exam. I want you to be aware of this moment. I want you to remember this point that I'm telling you right now, because this is the make it or break it point. And what will differentiate whether you drop out and fail, or you keep improving and pass with an A or a B, is what I have been talking about for the past 3 days. What is going to differentiate you from being a bad student, quote unquote bad student, or a good student in this moment right here is the story that you tell yourself about what just happened. And when I say about what just happened, I mean about that exam that you got back, that the grade was lower than you expected it to be based off of all the work that you did. The story that you tell yourself about where you currently are at grade-wise. The story you tell yourself will determine whether you quit by dropping out, by not putting in the effort anymore because you don't think that it's worth it because you did and it still got you an F, or whether you persist, okay? This here is the most pivotal point in the semester. What will dictate whether you quit or persist is the story you tell yourself about what happened after your first exam. Here is what I see most students doing, okay? The story that they tell is built off of their past experience. I failed this class before. I've never been good at math. It's really hard to do school full-time and be a parent and work full-time. Remember those circumstances that I talked about at on day 1 of this masterclass series? Remember how I told you that your brain will tell you that those are the reasons why you are not yet a good student? Whether or not you choose to continue to tell yourself that story will determine what you do after your first exam. It will dictate whether you double down on figuring out what needs to change for you to increase your next exam score, or whether or not you put your hands up and you're like, whatever, I might as well just drop the class. Here is the kicker about this, and this is what kills me the most, because I'm going to be honest here. I've worked with over 400 plus students in the past 5 years that I've been doing what I do as a life coach for college students. 90% of the students who end up working with me way too late. They work with me when they've hit rock bottom, when they're in that pit of despair and they've quit already 2 or 3 times and they're sick and tired of quitting on themselves. Because here's the worst thing about this pit of despair and choosing to tell yourself a story that causes you to quit. You ready for it? You quit, but you can't stand the fact that you quit. It eats you alive. It keeps you up at night. You hate yourself for it. You regret it. So what happens, because you regret it, because you hate yourself for it, because you're so like, just, I can't believe that I'm quitting on myself, right? You start over. So now you have to re-inspire yourself, re-motivate yourself, re-put yourself into this energy of possibility. And you end up starting over again. You have to go through the oh shit moment again. You have to go through the pit of despair again. And if you don't know how to get yourself past this pit of despair, you will continuously quit and be starting over. Going through the oh shit moment again, hitting the pit of despair, quitting, and having to start over. And this is why it feels like you're stuck. This is why it feels like I can't figure it out. I've been trying for so long to make this work and it's not working. It is not because you're not smart enough. It is not because you're not capable enough. It is not because you don't deserve to be in that major or in that college. It is not because you're a mom. It is not because you're working full time while you're in college. It is not because no one ever taught you how to study. It is not because you came from the hood in a bad school system. That is not the reason why you're stuck. That is not the reason why you can't figure it out. The reason why you haven't figured it out yet, the reason why you are not yet, quote unquote, a good student is because you quit every single time it gets hard. That's it. And you're constantly starting over. And then it gets hard again and you quit. And then you start over again and it gets hard and you quit. If you want to be someone who not just succeeds academically, but creates a life beyond college that absolutely blows their mind, where you look back and you're like, how did I create this for myself? Like, how did I go from that to this? Is learning how to get yourself past this pit of despair. The same thing that causes you to quit is also the solution to getting out of the pit of despair. It is the story you tell yourself about what's happening. It's what you make it mean. I'm going to give you an example between someone who continuously does really well and someone who is not, grade standard is not a good, quote unquote, a good student, is that both of those students can take the first exam and they can get a 65 on it. The student who persists and goes on to not just pass the class, but do really well in it, they don't make the 65 mean that they're not smart enough. Their perspective is this: okay, I got a 65 on this exam. Clearly, whatever I did to study didn't work. Something is off here. I misunderstood the information, or I focused on the wrong things, or maybe I didn't give myself enough time to study. Maybe I, didn't take my notes in the right way for the way that we were going to be tested. They separate the story from the fact. The fact of the matter is I got a 65, and a 65 means that I only knew 65% of the material that was covered on this exam. So where is the other 45%? How did I miss knowing that information? And they start to evaluate, okay, what worked? What didn't? What needs to change? A student who ends up dropping out after that first exam, dropping the class, or sort of putting their hands up and like not really trying for the rest of the semester and fails, is that failing student, that dropout student, sees the 65 and they're like, I'm just not good at this. I'm not smart enough for this. Like, I knew I shouldn't have taken this class. Ugh, I knew, see, it's, I wouldn't be having this issue if if I wasn't a single mom, if I didn't have to work. Notice how the student who goes on to pass and take A's took personal responsibility for what created the 65, which means they hold all the power to change it. They get to decide whether they unravel or persevere. They get to decide who they're going to become. They decide whether that 65 crushes them or it gives them the information they need to continue to do better for the next one. The student who fails puts all of their power in things they cannot change and things they have no control over. So guess who has the power to change their situation? Not them. They need the world to change for them to succeed. And guess how often the world will change for you to succeed? Like 0% of the time. The story you tell yourself is the most important thing here. And I want to just give you a little bit of background of what makes up this story. I gave you a little piece of it. So your past experiences, your current circumstances will give you a piece of the story that you're telling yourself. The other bit of it is what is called the motivational triad. Now, this is something that is not entirely in your control because this is just the way that the human brain functions. So this is very normal and everybody experiences this. Our brains are motivated by three things: avoiding pain, whether that's physical or emotional pain, conserving as much energy as possible, and seeking out pleasure. So your brain will tell you stories to try to protect you because that motivational triad is all about survival. So if your brain deems something as unsafe because it's going to cause you physical or emotional pain, require you to expend a lot of energy or effort, or isn't pleasurable, it will tell you it's not worth it. And it will tell you whatever it needs to tell you so that you don't do the thing that you know is going to take you to the next level. That part of your brain is always going to exist. Your past life circumstances and your current circumstances are also something that, for the most part, can't always be changed. But what can be changed is your awareness about whether or not that's serving you to continue thinking that way. And so when I tell you the story you tell yourself is so important, is because just because your brain is telling you why you can't doesn't mean you have to believe it. You can choose to think something different. It's possible. This pit of despair, this pivotal moment in the semester is where most students are needing the support and the help. And they're not getting it. Because most study YouTubers don't know about this. Or they don't know how to explain it. And they don't see the patterns. Because they don't work with students one-on-one or at all. They're just sharing their personal experiences, right? So a time management routine isn't going to fix the issue. It's going to help, but it's not going to fix the issue when you hit the pit of despair, which is inevitable. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. A study routine isn't going to help you get out of the pit of despair. And the pit of despair is coming. It's inevitable. It happens anytime you try to change anything. What will determine whether or not you get out of it is the story you tell yourself about what is happening in your current moment. That is what I am an expert in with students. That is literally what I help students do day in and day out, is learn how to tell themselves a better story and believe it. Because if you can shift that, you show up even when it's hard. You catch yourself procrastinating and you shift super quickly. You don't make it mean that you're not smart enough if you get a 60 on a test. You can see it for what it is. Okay, clearly I didn't focus on something I needed to focus on. What was that? Let's do it for the next exam. Let's keep it moving. This ability to shift, to pivot, to take action, to keep going, even when it's hard, even when it looks like it's not working, even when shit hits the fan. That resiliency people always tell you about, that grit, that perseverance, it can be taught. It's called mindset work. It's what I do with students every day. And I'm damn good at it. Because if you can learn how to tell yourself a different story, what happens is you keep going through this journey of becoming a good student. And eventually you hit this point in the semester where you know, I've got this. Passing this class is a done deal. I know what I'm doing. I know what skills I need to focus on. I know the stories I need to tell myself. I know what I need to do, and I'm doing it. And if you're doing all of those things, what becomes inevitable is your success, because you kept going. The reason why most students don't succeed is because they quit, because they can't freaking get themselves past this pit of despair. And most students don't even know the stories that they're telling themselves that are keeping them quitting and stuck. Because when you're in it, when you're in that pit of despair where you feel like nothing is working and I'm so dumb and I'm so stupid and here we go again, I'm going to have to drop this class, I'm never going to be able to graduate. Everything your brain tells you, you agree with and you think it's truth and fact. And you're like, yeah, that's exactly why we're never going to succeed. The skill that I teach students when they work with me is how to differentiate the bullshit stories their brains are telling themselves from what's actually real, i.e. what they're actually capable of. And this is the shit that you're not going to hear anybody else tell you when you watch YouTube videos. And that's what makes me so angry sometimes about this like whole study YouTuber space, because they make it seem like, well, just use the Pomodoro method and everything will be solved. No, you're going to start using the Pomodoro method and it's going to suck ass. And you're going to hate it and you're not going to want to do it and you're going to procrastinate sometimes. And as long as you don't make it mean that anything has gone wrong and you understand that those moments of this sucks ass, I don't want to do this, I don't feel like doing this, this is hard, are expected, you will keep going. But when you're in it, it's so hard to not just believe all of those BS stories. And that's why working with a coach like me is so valuable, because we keep you from quitting. We help you see it to the end We help you overcome that hurdle and that mountain so you can reach the top, which in turn is going to save you so much money because you're not going to have to be retaking classes. You're not going to have to stay an extra semester. You're not going to have to extend your college experience because you're going to be moving through your classes so quickly because you're passing them and you're doing really well, and you can shift and pivot out of that pit of despair so fast now. And then the shit that really gets me about this work that I do, when I'm passionate, I swear, and my favorite swear word is shit, is that every single one of my students has used what I teach them in our work one-on-one to create the most incredible life for themselves, because everything that I did to go from failing out of 7 classes to graduating with honors while I was working 2 jobs, being in a relationship, and starting my coaching business is literally everything that I still do to create the company that I have, to create the planner that I built, to create the marriage that I have, to create the environment that I'm raising my daughter in. Because what I am is a life coach. So anywhere in your life where you are experiencing stuckness, feelings of inadequacy, feelings of I can't figure this out, what we're working on together is going to also impact those areas of your life positively, because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And I guarantee you that if you constantly find yourself quitting and dropping out in your classes, you're also probably doing it in your relationships, and you're doing it in your fitness goals, and you're doing it in your financial goals, and you're doing it in your friendship goals. The pattern is showing up everywhere. And if you can learn how to get yourself out of the pit of despair in your classes, you can also learn how to do it in your relationships, in your career, with your finances, with your health and fitness goals, your entire life. So that is going to conclude Smart Enough, the Art of Becoming a Good Student 3-day Masterclass series. What I want to do right now is for the students who are on here with me, are watching the replay, you're sitting here with your mouth dropped, absolutely mind blown, thinking to yourself, I want more of this. I want more of you. I want your support. I'm going to give you an opportunity to be able to get that. I work with students one-on-one as a life coach for college students. What I help them to do is set a goal and achieve it. Stop quitting on themselves. Stop procrastinating on the goal. Stop self-sabotaging the goal. Stop letting imposter syndrome and inadequacy, feelings of inadequacy, and your past experience dictate whether or not you get to achieve that goal or not. It just so happens that I primarily do it with students who are enrolled in college, which means not only are you going to get my help to help you to become a good student grade-wise, but I'm also going to help you to become the best version of yourself in every area of your life. Because when my students work with me, their entire lives change, not just their grades. Because when they learn what they learn how to do with me, it frees up so much more time in their schedule for them to be able to show up in the areas that they have been neglecting because they can't figure this college shit out. Because I guarantee you, your relationships, your money, your health and wellness, your mental health is suffering if you are suffering as a student. Because all of your energy, all of your focus, all of your time is going to, all of your thoughts is going to, I need to graduate. I need to figure this out. I need to stop failing. I need to imagine if that wasn't a problem anymore, how you'd be able to show up in your relationships, how you'd be able to show up in your finances, how you'd be able to show up in your career, how you'd be able to show up as a mom, how do you be able to show up as a friend, as a daughter. The way that I work with students is through a program, a one-on-one coaching, life coaching program for college students called Your Best Semester Yet. I require students to work with me for a minimum of 4 months because of this process that I talked about, because you're going to hit that pit of despair about month 1 to 2 of your semester. And we need 2 months to get you to finish the semester. So you have to work with me for at least 4 months. The program is 4 months long. It is you and me working privately together one-on-one. You're not with any other students. We are setting your goals for the 4 months, what you want to accomplish with working with me at the end of the 4 months. We are identifying the stories that keep you stuck, quitting, procrastinating, in imposter syndrome, frozen, overwhelmed, stressed out. And we are reprogramming them. We are helping you to build and tell yourself a better story, a story that supports who you want to become. We create a plan that helps to solidify and create evidence for that new story. And every week, we focus on where you're stuck and getting you unstuck so that you can quickly pivot, quickly keep moving forward, quickly keep taking action, momentum, getting it done, showing up for yourself, and creating whatever the hell you want for yourself. It's 4 months long. We meet weekly. We start off with a 2-hour kickoff call. That's where we're working on your goals and the plan. Then we meet weekly for 45 minutes at a time. You and I will decide whatever day and time works best for us, and we'll meet at the same date and time every week. And I'm helping you get over the overwhelm, the procrastination, the stuckness, the frozenness, the paralysis, the imposter syndrome, the stress, so that you can just get yourself to take the damn action you know that you should be taking, so that you can get the grades and live the life that you want. As a bonus, you get access to my program, my study skills program called Study School. Study School is all of the how-to videos around studying. So reading, note-taking, studying for exams, writing papers. It comes with a shit ton of like step-by-step guides and worksheets to help you to write your notes, to study for exams and all of that. And I give that to students as a bonus so that you have that piece of it in one place and you don't have to go spend time on YouTube anymore, because it's going to be all laid out for you. And if you just follow that plan, the study routine piece of it, the time management piece of it is already sorted out for you. You just have to show up for it. The hardest part, And you don't have to worry about that because you're getting to coach with me every week and I'm helping you to follow through and show up and stick to it and take the action. It's a no freaking brainer. The investment is $3,500. There's a payment plan. Comes to $875 a month for 4 months. I work with 10 students at a time. 5 spots are already gone. I have 8 calls booked within the next 2 weeks. I'm sure those 5 spots that are left are going to go pretty fast. So if you've already decided, I want to work with you, like sign me up, get your ass on my calendar. Claudia, who's our student happiness ambassador and one of my past students who I've worked with, who just graduated nursing school with A's and B's, by the way, because my shit works, is going to drop the link for you guys in the chat. And she's going to drop it for you on Facebook as well. That's all I have for you. Does anyone have any questions? While I am still here, my Zoom is freezing on me, which is annoying. Any questions on working with me? Any questions about the Your Best Semester Yet one-on-one coaching program? Cool. So it doesn't look like there are any questions from what I can see. If you happen to have them later on, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Or I can just book your call and I can answer them on the call for you. But if you want to reach out to me, the best place is my Instagram DMs. And my Instagram handle is @SheRocksAtCollege. So the @ and then She Rocks at College. Send me a direct message on Instagram. I respond pretty quickly to my Instagram direct messages. So if you do have any questions later on, that's the place to send them. But if you know that you want to work with me, but you're feeling a little hesitant because you feel like you don't have all the information, just book the call anyway, and I'd be happy to answer those questions on the call. Cool. Have an amazing rest of your week. Thank you so much for spending the past 3 days with me. It has been such an honor to get to teach this. This is the work of my life. I love doing this. And stay tuned for more free masterclasses and YouTube videos and content. And if we ever get to work together one-on-one, it's going to be the time of your life. And if we don't, it's still going to be the time of your life because we're here to help and support you, whether or not you work with us or not. So have an amazing rest of your week. Bye.